The bodyguard says that the image of her awake, even if somewhat disoriented, is both heartbreaking and comforting. It's comforting because she was not instantly gone. Heartbreaking because it highlights that help arrived, but still couldn't save her. He also indicates that Diana actually had a faint pulse while being transferred to the ambulance. That small sign of life gave paramedics hope that they could pull her through once they got to the hospital. He mentions how the fireman, or Gallon, was stunned when he learned the victim he tried to save was Princess Diana. He had no clue who she was in the immediate moment. He was just doing his job, attempting to save a blonde crash victim with minimal visible injuries. The bodyguard insists this detail underlines why so many claims about a conspiracy to have her killed don't ring true. Nothing about the crash scene looked staged. It was chaos and confusion, and no one had a clue they were dealing with royalty. Just people in dire need of help. In the ambulance, Diana slipped in and out of consciousness. She reportedly went into cardiac arrest, prompting frantic attempts at CPR. The bodyguard has heard from those who were there that for a few short seconds, it seemed like the medical team got her heart beating again. That glimmer of hope didn't last. The internal injuries that no one could immediately see would prove fatal. She passed away at the hospital hours later, while surgeons tried to fix the rupture near her heart. To this day, people argue about whether things could have been different if Diana had been rushed to the hospital faster, or if the ambulance had used a different route. The bodyguard is honest in his stance. We'll never know. He's heard the paramedics argue that the French approach to emergency care is different from the British style, that on-scene stabilization took priority over immediate transport. Regardless, it's clear Diana was far more severely hurt than her outward appearance suggested. In the end, her final words were likely the bewildered murmur of someone who realized something horrible had happened, but wasn't totally aware of how life-threatening it was. The paparazzi dilemma. The final puzzle piece is the paparazzi. For a while, the entire world blamed them, and many still do. Some say that if it weren't for the relentless chase, the driver wouldn't have sped, and Diana wouldn't have died in that tunnel. Others argue that while the paparazzi's behavior was bad, the bigger problem was the presence of an intoxicated driver behind the wheel. The bodyguard offers a more nuanced view. In his mind, the paparazzi were definitely contributing to the tension and panic, but the entire security apparatus around Diana had collapsed under the weight of her newfound independence. He insists that the paparazzi's aggression was no new phenomenon. Diana had faced them from the moment reporters learned of her relationship with Prince Charles all those years ago. She was used to stepping off a curb while a cluster of cameras blocked her path. She had even cooperated with some journalists in the past, trying to harness the media's power to promote her charitable causes. But her romance with Dodi brought a new level of frenzy. Tabloids couldn't get enough of the millionaire's playboy son and the world's most famous ex-royal. Everyone wanted that exclusive shot, maybe a kiss, a whisper, a moment of tension. The financial rewards for such photos were enormous, spurring the paparazzi to drive recklessly through Paris in pursuit. Yet the bodyguard says it's too simplistic to say the paparazzi alone caused the crash. He points out that Dodi was also determined to slip away undetected, rushing out into the night against any better judgment. The security detail was so scattered that they ended up relying on a deputy head of Ritz security with an unconfirmed blood alcohol level. The bodyguard calls it a perfect storm. Sure, the paparazzi's pushy presence was the flashpoint, but every step up to that point was flawed. He believes that if any single safeguard had been in place, say, if a professional chauffeur with a sober background had been driving, Diana might have arrived safely at Dodi's apartment. The paparazzi were intrusive and callous, but they weren't the sole reason the car crashed at high speed. He also remembers hearing about how some paparazzi, after the accident, rushed forward with cameras instead of offering help. That, he says, is a moment that reveals how twisted the tabloid culture was. Emergency personnel had to push them back. Meanwhile, the bodyguard was fielding frantic calls from staff wanting updates on Diana's condition. Some paparazzi claimed they were just doing their jobs, while others insisted they had tried to help once they realized how severe the crash was. Regardless, the damage was done. In the months and years after Diana's death, there was a global outcry over paparazzi tactics. People demanded new laws, new protections. Yet, the bodyguard feels that the world has a short memory. Over time, sensational pictures still fetch high prices, and paparazzi culture hasn't disappeared. In his view, Diana's death could have led to a real overhaul, ensuring celebrities or public figures were better shielded from reckless pursuit. Instead, the conversation fizzled out, overshadowed by conspiracy theories, official investigations, and changing headlines. He calls the entire night a giant security failure, because so many systems that should have protected Diana left her exposed. She was no longer a royal highness with tight palace protocols, and she hadn't yet established her own bulletproof network of experienced security. Dodi's wealth and connections, ironically, did not translate into the safest possible environment. The paparazzi just turned up the pressure, turning a risky strategy into a lethal one. Confrontations with the royal establishment and legal hurdles. When the shocking car crash in Paris claimed Princess Diana's life, millions worldwide turned to the royal family for comfort and answers. Many people felt the monarchy should have offered a warmer, more transparent response to the tragedy. Suddenly, a quiet tension seeped out into the open. Private frustrations boiled over, and individuals searched for someone to blame. In the middle of this storm stood the princess's on and off security circle, a small group of men charged with keeping her safe, yet powerless on that fateful night. Eventually, one of these men chose to speak out. For years, the bodyguard had been more than just a silent figure in Diana's orbit. He knew the lines of succession, the restrictions of palace protocol, and the consequences of stepping out of place. But in the aftermath of the accident, the royal establishment tried to close ranks. That's when he realized there might be more at stake than simply defending the public image of the monarchy. Documents needed signing, hush-hush agreements were laid on the table, and he braced for confrontation. Some key palace aides wanted a smooth, simple narrative. Yes, it was all a terrible accident. Blame the driver. Condolences to the family. Let us move on. But the bodyguard felt something else brewing. Countless awkward questions nobody wanted to address. Had the princess been left with subpar protection once her divorce was finalized? Why did everything feel so uncoordinated that night in Paris? Why were certain eyewitness accounts brushed aside? The tension with the monarchy did not take the form of a flashy showdown in the corridors of Buckingham Palace, but rather subtle forms of pressure. Insiders murmured about whether the bodyguard should sign non-disclosure papers. Close associates hinted that legal trouble might arise if he ever contradicted official statements. To him, it was all too obvious that some corners of the royal establishment saw him as a loose end, someone who had no official place in the firm once Diana was gone. Others within the palace were more empathetic. They quietly admitted there was a deep sadness in how Diana's final hours played out, and they feared the scandal could spin out of control if too many conflicting stories emerged. The bodyguard saw it from both angles. The monarchy had lost one of its brightest stars, and the entire institution was staggering under public grief and growing media hostility. He also became wrapped up in the complicated swirl of legal proceedings. French authorities launched an investigation into the crash. British officials monitored from across the channel, keen to see how the blame game would unfold. Paparazzi who had chased Diana's car were briefly detained, then released. Some tabloids even tested the waters of sensational conspiracy theories, claiming that Diana had been targeted by shady forces. The bodyguard recalls feeling torn between his loyalty to the memory of the princess and the rules that came with any brush against royal life. Stepping forward could place him on a collision course with powerful individuals who had no interest in seeing the official reports questioned. He wasn't alone. Other staff members, including the late Diana's aides and butlers, also faced tough choices about talking to the media or cooperating with various legal teams. A few who had once been close to the princess gave interviews that stoked further allegations of a cover-up or hints of neglected safety protocols. The bodyguard, though, wanted to keep his head above water, mindful of not just the monarchy's lawyers, but also Dodi Fayed's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, a man determined to prove a larger plot was at work. The tug-of-war between different factions left him exhausted. Why he's breaking his silence now? After the crash, the bodyguard didn't immediately rush to the press. He was haunted by guilt and plagued by nightmares about that chaotic night in the Pont de l'Alma underpass. He knew his story could easily be twisted or overshadowed by the frenzy of tabloid headlines clamoring for shocking details. For years, he remained in the background, trying to find normalcy in a world that could not stop talking about Princess Diana's death. When he looked in the mirror, he saw the face of someone who felt he had let down the one person he was supposed to protect. No matter how many times people pointed out that he wasn't the driver, and that Diana had made her own choices that night, he still shouldered the regret. He also carried around his memories of Diana. How she sipped tea with staff in the early evening, how she quietly supported her sons, and how she faced cameras with an almost unearthly calm. But he was aware of her private pain as well. Opinions about Diana had become polarized. Some cast her as a saintly figure. Others claimed she was manipulative. He knew her best as a kind, flawed individual under too much pressure. He found it increasingly painful to watch her legacy boil down to conspiracy theories, paparazzi standoffs, and old footage of that final summer with Dodi Fayed. Every few years, major anniversaries of Diana's passing triggered a wave of press coverage. The bodyguard would get calls from old colleagues or journalists, each seeking exclusive anecdotes. He consistently refused, telling himself it was better to let the official narrative stand. But time can change perspective. As he saw documentaries and articles sensationalize the same old angles, he began to suspect that people might benefit from a fresh viewpoint. Someone who had lived in her shadow. Someone who had no interest in fanning conspiracy flames, but also no desire to whitewash the chaos of that final night. Why speak out now? He says it was a slow process, not a single event. He began talking confidentially to a therapist, struggling with the trauma of seeing the princess lying in the wrecked car, her eyes sometimes fluttering as first responders tried to keep her alive. He confesses to nights spent awake, replaying the same images, headlights cutting through smoky air, paparazzi yelling. The terrifying moment he realized it was Diana in mortal peril. As the nightmares persisted, he felt a need for catharsis, not just for himself, but for the public that still aches when they remember those headlines. So he decided enough was enough. He was done hiding behind the hush-hush environment that typically surrounds royal staff.
Those moments are they're very defining. I think if I would say to my younger self, do not be defined by those moments that happened to you in that exam or that classroom, because they are lifelong learnings, they are lessons that you'd carry with you, and they build you up to be who you are.
Princess Beatrice's passion for raising awareness about dyslexia stems from her own experience growing up with the condition. She has spoken openly about the struggles she faced in school, revealing that she often felt left behind as her classmates progressed at a quicker pace.
The reason why I am so passionate about dyslexia is because of being a dyslexic person myself. I feel like I really understand that we have a responsibility to change the narrative around what we are delivering to young people in the classroom.
It's really exciting. We've got so much UK talent. It's so wonderful they can come to, can be honoured in such a way, and we can, notice big stars like Stella McCartney. She's had such a fantastic year with what she did with Team GB. I think it's been such a great year for Britain on the whole, but it's even better year for British fashion.
These feelings of inadequacy were a constant presence, and she vividly recalls how difficult it was to be surrounded by friends who seemed to grasp things so easily while she wrestled with the material.
I know we're not together in person, but I want to thank each and every single one of you for being involved in this incredible prize. To all the writers and illustrators, thank you for building this world of wonder for young people to be able to jump into.
The challenges in the classroom were particularly poignant when she compared herself to her peers. The colored books in her school, which indicated reading levels, served as a daily reminder that she wasn't progressing as fast as the others. While her best friends moved on to more advanced levels, she remained on the lower ones, which naturally led to feelings of doubt and insecurity.
I think because there's so much talent here, and I think that so much, we saw tonight how many people are coming from St Martin's, and there's so much youth talent, and I think that's what makes the UK stand apart, and I think that should be nurtured, and I think that it makes the UK reflect well on us as a whole. I'm wearing Erdem this evening. What I love about him is that he, designs really well. He designs really well for women, and he does quite, uses a lot of lace and very feminine cuts, and I think it works well for me.
It's a common experience for many children with dyslexia. Watching others soar while feeling like you're stuck, unable to keep up. But Beatrice's story doesn't end with those struggles. She has reflected on how those difficult moments in school shaped her into the person she is today.
I was very lucky, got to go to a school that was very nurturing and very supportive. But I would describe the actual day-to-day learning side of things very challenging. I remember we had different coloured books to describe how far where your reading levels had got to. And I was always on the white books. My best friends were always on the yellow books or the green books. They were so far ahead. And I think at that stage, those moments of doubt just pop into your head. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not, why am I not like the others? I think when you're in the classroom...
It's clear that her experiences helped her develop resilience and strength. Instead of letting those challenges define her, she learned to view them as lessons. Those moments of doubt became stepping stones toward a deeper understanding of herself, and she now advocates for others to adopt a similar perspective. Her message is clear. Don't let difficult academic moments define your worth, as these are only part of your lifelong journey.
One of the first things I learned in the workplace was to find great people that you look up to. I think some of the things that women struggle with the most is identifying role models and people that you want to aspire to, whether that's their professional life or finding the right balance. I think be brave, be bold, asking for advice. People love to support young talent.
I think that education now, when you've got a lot of young people that are focusing on just getting things perfect for a test and absolutely not being able to have that moment of expression that comes from a study around lifelong learning and actually what skills-based learning really looks like, we are going to get into ourselves in a very difficult situation. So I'm really excited with all the work that's going on now with a few different organizations across the world to really think through what is skills-based learning and what are the skills that young people need to be able to thrive in life.
For Beatrice, the importance of shifting the narrative around education is crucial. She believes that the current system, with its emphasis on getting things perfect for a test, doesn't allow for the full expression of a student's abilities. Young people, she argues, need to be taught in a way that prepares them for life, not just for exams. Education should be about skills-based learning.
I felt so lucky I've had a chance to read the books on the shortlist, so thank you to each and every single one of you for all of your hard work. This year was an unprecedented year with so many remarkable entries. The judges made the decision to extend the shortlist from 5 to 6. Without further ado, I would like to announce the names who have made it to the Oscars Book Prize shortlist 2020. I would like to commend Jordan Poskett and Alex Wilmore for The Runaway Pea, published by Simon & Schuster, Carl Newson and Ross Collins for I Am a Tiger, published by Macmillan Children's Books, Daisy Hurst for Alphonse, There's Mud on the Ceiling, published by Walter Books. I'd like to commend Benji Davis for Tad, published by HarperCollins.
Focusing on developing tools that help students thrive in the real world. Her vision is one where education is reimagined to better support every student, particularly those who, like her, struggle with traditional methods of teaching.
I think technology plays a really important role. Tech-enabled learning and what we can achieve with that, what we can do for multiple classrooms across the world, taking these centres of excellence and being able to connect people, being able to tell a very different story, delivering homework help and support and online tutoring. These are great assets and great tools for young people. So I really see the work that we're doing, raising awareness around dyslexia, as a true pillar to stand up the concept of reimagining education.
I've had quite a diverse career, everything from finance to charity to now working for a technology company. I think it was all about looking to what skills I wanted to bring to each of those different industries. What I've learned the most is looking at how you can diversify, how you can be agile, and how you can really find the best way to communicate across a lot of different industries. Because so many young people now are going to be faced with some of the biggest moral and ethical decisions, you really want to make sure they have every tool for success. One of the reasons why I think it's a great time to be dyslexic now is because that narrative is starting to change. I think employers are very aware that they do have to rely on a different set of skill sets. I'm very lucky I've been able to find a job that relies on my communication skills a lot more than it is me sitting behind a desk. A lot of my colleagues also have dyslexia.
Beatrice is excited about the possibilities that technology offers in transforming education. With tech-enabled learning, classrooms around the world can be connected, providing more opportunities for students to receive the support they need.
Take the time to back yourself. You've worked hard, you've got that job, you deserve it. You deserve that seat at the table. So I would say to any young person, back yourself first, ask for advice, because there are so many people that have traveled the same path that you're trying to travel.
Because we work in a technology company that is always about looking at things differently, and I think that's one of the strengths that we have as dyslexics, is to look at things differently and be a problem solver, find new ways to do things, be experimental, entrepreneurial. Dyslexia really does affect me day to day. It develops as you develop. It's part of you. It's part of how your brain develops. It is not something that is wrong with you. It is a great part of how your brain works, and everybody's brain works incredibly differently. There is nothing wrong. There is just everything that is so right.
I'd love to see this appreciation for second lives and what that brings to your work and what that contributes to your community at work. I think companies nowadays are really building on that sense of community. So to be able to kind of bring that in, find the balance in how you are as a professional, but also how you are with your family or with your pets or with your charity work or with anything else that you have going on alongside of it. You can also share that in your community.
Online resources, homework help, and tutoring are just a few of the tools that can make a significant difference in a student's academic journey. In her view, these tools are vital for young people today, especially as they face increasingly complex challenges in the world. In a poignant moment that tugs at the heartstrings, Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, shared a deeply emotional embrace with a young girl in a touching act of compassion. This story, both heartwarming and heart-wrenching, unfolds as we explore the powerful reason behind this heartfelt gesture, a reason that is bound to move you to tears. Join us as we delve into this extraordinary act of kindness and the profound impact it had on both the young girl and those who witnessed it. This is a story of empathy, connection, and the remarkable ways in which simple gestures can leave an enduring legacy.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support and for your understanding whilst I've been recovering from surgery. It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family, but I've had a fantastic medical team who have taken great care of me, for which I'm so grateful. In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous.
Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, is renowned not only for her role within the British royal family, but also for her profound ability to connect with the public. Over the years, she has established herself as a figure of warmth, empathy, and genuine engagement, embodying qualities that endear her to people across the United Kingdom and around the world. Her interactions with individuals, her dedication to charitable causes, and the reciprocal affection she receives from the public reflect the depth of her character and the positive impact she has made. From the outset of her public life, Kate Middleton has been recognized for her exceptional ability to interact with people on a personal level. Her approachability and warmth have become defining features of her public persona. Whether she is attending formal events, visiting community centers, or participating in royal tours, Kate's demeanor exudes a genuine interest in the well-being of those she meets. This authentic connection has played a significant role in shaping her reputation as a beloved figure. One of the most striking aspects of Kate's public engagements is her attentiveness. During her appearances, she demonstrates a remarkable capacity for listening and understanding. This attentiveness is not merely a formality. It reflects a deep-seated commitment to engaging with individuals and addressing their concerns. People often leave interactions with Kate feeling valued and heard, a testament to her ability to connect on a meaningful level. Kate's conversations with the public are characterized by a sense of genuine interest and empathy. She takes the time to engage in heartfelt discussions, showing a sincere desire to understand the experiences and challenges faced by those she meets. This level of engagement goes beyond superficial pleasantries and highlights Kate's dedication to making a real connection with individuals. Her interactions often involve discussing personal journeys, community issues, or simply sharing light moments. Kate's approachability is evident in the way she listens, responds, and interacts, creating a sense of rapport that resonates with people. This ability to connect on a personal level has endeared her to many, making her a cherished figure in the public eye. Kate Middleton's commitment to public service is also reflected in her involvement with various charitable causes. Her work with organizations such as Place 2BE, which provides mental health support to children, and the Heads Together campaign, which aims to address mental health stigma, demonstrates her dedication to making a positive impact. Through her charitable efforts, Kate has used her platform to raise awareness about important issues and contribute to meaningful change.
My work has always brought me a deep sense of joy, and I look forward to being back when I'm able. But for now, I must focus on making a full recovery. At this time, I'm also thinking of all those whose lives have been affected by cancer. For everyone facing this disease, in whatever form, please do not lose faith or hope. You are not alone.
One of the most impactful aspects of Kate's charitable work is her ability to bring attention to causes in a compassionate and relatable manner. By actively participating in events, sharing personal stories, and advocating for change, she has helped shine a spotlight on issues that might otherwise receive less attention. Her involvement goes beyond mere appearances. She engages deeply with the organizations she supports, working to understand their needs and contribute to their success. Kate's popularity and the affection she receives from the public are a reflection of the positive impact she has made. People appreciate her genuine nature, her dedication to service, and her ability to connect with them on a personal level. The warmth she exudes during public engagements creates a sense of trust and admiration, making her a beloved figure in the eyes of many. Her public appearances often include moments of genuine interaction that highlight her approachability. Whether it's sharing a laugh with a child, engaging in a heartfelt conversation with a community member, or participating in activities that connect her with the people she meets, Kate's demeanor is consistently warm and welcoming. These interactions are captured in photographs and videos, which further reinforce her reputation as a relatable and caring individual. Kate Middleton's role as a mother has also contributed to her public image. Her approach to parenting, characterized by warmth and openness, resonates with many people. The way she balances her royal duties with family life is seen as both admirable and relatable. Public appearances involving her children often reflect the same genuine care and affection that she shows to others, adding another layer of relatability to her persona. Her involvement in community activities further underscores her dedication to connecting with the public. During visits to schools, hospitals, and community centers, Kate engages with individuals and groups, demonstrating a genuine interest in their experiences and contributions. Her interactions are often characterized by a sense of respect and understanding, acknowledging the unique challenges and successes of those she meets. In addition to her personal interactions, Kate's involvement with charitable organizations highlights her dedication to addressing social issues. Her work with mental health initiatives, children's welfare, and early childhood development reflects a commitment to making a positive difference in society. Through her advocacy and participation, Kate has helped to bring attention to important causes and support organizations that are making a real impact. Kate Middleton's ability to connect with people from various backgrounds and experiences is another testament to her exceptional interpersonal skills. Whether she is meeting with veterans, engaging with young students, or participating in activities with individuals facing challenging circumstances, Kate's interactions are characterized by empathy and understanding. This ability to relate to people from all walks of life contributes to the widespread affection she receives. The positive response to Kate's public engagements is not solely about her personal charm, but also about the values she represents. Her dedication to service, her commitment to charitable causes, and her genuine care for others embody qualities that many people hold in high regard. She has become a symbol of compassion and connection, qualities that resonate deeply with the public. As we wrap up this insightful conversation, it's clear that Kate Middleton's dedication to her role as the Duchess of Cambridge goes far beyond the ceremonial and the superficial. Her genuine passion for engaging with the public, her commitment to charitable causes, and her heartfelt approach to her responsibilities demonstrate a deep sense of empathy and purpose. Kate's ability to connect with individuals on a personal level is a testament to her remarkable character and the impact she strives to make in the world. Throughout the interview, Kate has shared personal anecdotes and reflections that highlight her genuine commitment to service. Her involvement with mental health initiatives and children's welfare is not merely a matter of fulfilling royal duties. In a surprising moment that has reignited discussions about the inner workings of the British royal family, Princess Kate recently made headlines when she appeared to refuse to curtsy to Queen Camilla during a high-profile public event. The incident, caught on camera, has led to widespread speculation about possible tensions between the two royal figures. As protocol usually requires the Princess of Wales to show deference to the Queen Consort with a curtsy, Kate's decision to bypass this traditional gesture has been viewed by some as a pointed act of defiance, possibly reflecting underlying discord within the royal household. This moment, though brief, has added a new layer to the ongoing narrative surrounding the dynamics and relationships among the senior members of the monarchy.
At the moment, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
For over 2 decades, the story of Princess Diana's final hours has been told and retold, capturing the imaginations of millions around the world. From official crash investigations to endless tabloid reports, it seemed we knew every grim detail. Yet in the shadows, one man quietly shouldered the burden of truth. Her bodyguard during her last summer of freedom, a figure tasked with keeping Diana safe, until the exact moment he could not. A secret romance. Princess Diana's life story has always been a mix of fairy tale magic and grim reality. She captured hearts with her beauty and grace, but behind her public image lay private struggles, personal heartbreak, and endless media harassment. In 1997, she embarked on a bold new chapter when she got involved with film producer Dodi Fayed, a man whose glamour seemed to match her own desire for romance and excitement. Over decades, many have questioned what really happened in those final weeks. Now, a former bodyguard has stepped forward with new claims that throw fresh light on a relationship that ended in the most tragic way possible. People always talk about Princess Diana as if they understood what she was going through. The truth, says the bodyguard, is that Diana was at a crossroads in the summer of 1997. She had divorced Prince Charles the year before, and she was eager to redefine herself, no longer just the people's princess, but a private individual in search of love and freedom. It was a kind of rebirth, one that came with the hope of escaping life behind the palace gates. Her romance with Dodi Fayed was sudden, passionate, and shocking to anyone who'd watched her before. He was the son of billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed, the owner of Harrods and the Ritz Hotel in Paris. He was also a flashy character who enjoyed mingling with Hollywood stars and throwing grand parties on private yachts. The bodyguard suggests that Dodi offered Diana an escape from the controlled environment she had always known. She supposedly felt safe stepping onto his father's yacht in the south of France, away from the typical line of photographers that took positions outside Kensington Palace day after day. When images did leak of Diana and Dodi cuddling or kissing, the tabloids went wild. Yet, according to the bodyguard, Diana was in a strangely optimistic mood during that time. She was tired of the constant lens pointed at her face, but she was also convinced she could somehow handle it. Dodi was famously generous with lavish gifts, top-floor suites, and dreamy vacations. Diana had rarely experienced a relationship that allowed her to unwind without rigid royal protocols overshadowing every move. What people may not realize, though, is that Diana had just left behind another relationship, a deeper, more private love with heart surgeon Hasnat Khan. Friends of the princess still debate whether she was truly over Hasnat, or if Dodi was simply a more public, carefree shift of direction. The bodyguard hints that she might have been torn. However, from the outside, it seemed that she and Dodi were enjoying a magical summer traveling through the Riviera. The bodyguard himself had to arrange their security, or at the very least, keep an eye on the paparazzi that followed them everywhere they went. Even though the pair tried to stay discreet, pictures of them hugging on deck frequently appeared in magazines. The bodyguard claims Diana never confirmed that she and Dodi were engaged, even though rumor had it he was about to propose. Some believe that Mohammed Al Fayed had grand visions of tying the Al Fayed name to British royalty, while others argue that Diana was committed to forging her own path and was cautious about jumping into marriage again. According to the bodyguard, Diana wanted to keep people guessing about the seriousness of her relationship with Dodi. She was certainly fond of him, and they spent hours talking about what the future might hold. At the same time, the glare of publicity around them was so severe that it felt like they were living in a pressure cooker. That tension, in the bodyguard's words, became the backdrop for the night of August 30th, 1997. Diana and Dodi were looking for a quiet, romantic time in Paris. They wanted privacy, which the bodyguard says was already in short supply. People who saw them earlier in the day remembered that they seemed cheerful and affectionate. But beneath that calm surface, the paparazzi were already staking out various exits around the Ritz, eager to get more pictures and sell them to tabloids across Europe. Diana might have acted like the constant coverage didn't bother her, but the bodyguard insists she was exhausted. Exhausted from the cameras, from speculation about engagements, from a media that seemed determined to photograph her every breath. Red flags. The bodyguard claims were ignored. Most major tragedies come with warning signs that people only recognize after the fact. According to the bodyguard, this was definitely the case. On the night Diana and Dodi died. Although so many stories have focused on the paparazzi's chase, the driver's intoxication, or even royal conspiracies, the bodyguard insists that several details could have changed everything if only someone had spoken up sooner. He points first to the overall security arrangements. Diana was arguably the most famous woman in the world, even after losing her official HRH title. She was used to traveling with skilled protection officers, who followed protocols hammered out by palace insiders. But once she stepped out of official royal circles and into a private billionaire's domain, some of those professional layers fell away. The bodyguard claims that by the time they got to Paris, security was ad hoc. Nobody seemed fully in charge of deciding which routes were safest, let alone checking whether the designated driver was in any condition to handle that responsibility. He also believes that trusting the Ritz to handle their exit might have been a fatal oversight. Dodi wanted so badly to outsmart the paparazzi that he proposed an elaborate decoy plan. 2 cars would exit from the front of the hotel, cameras flashing, while the real duo, Diana, Dodi, and bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones, would sneak out the back in a black Mercedes. It sounds clever in theory, but the bodyguard reveals that it was put together at the last minute. The paparazzi had practically sniffed it out immediately. Some staff members, the bodyguard adds, saw the paparazzi lingering in suspicious spots. If anyone realized that the decoy plan was compromised, they didn't pull the plug. Another red flag was the condition of the driver, Henri Paul. He worked as deputy head of security for the Ritz, but that didn't mean he was fit to handle a high-pressure chase on Paris roads. Subsequent toxicology reports indicated that he had been drinking. Some say people noticed he smelled of alcohol. Others claimed he seemed calm. The bodyguard is adamant that a formal check or a backup plan should have been triggered the moment there was doubt. Instead, Dodi and Diana, under pressure, in a rush, apparently chose to trust him because they were desperate for a quick escape. Then there were the paparazzi themselves, no longer just snapping photos from a distance, but actively maneuvering through traffic, swerving on motorbikes, and racing ahead to block the Mercedes. The bodyguard claims that the night was already tense, and ignoring how bad the chase had become was a recipe for disaster. Between the late hour, the urgency to evade cameras, and the possibility of an impaired driver, everything came together in one catastrophic moment. The bodyguard believes these red flags could have been addressed. Instead, no one stepped in to call off the late-night plan or ensure a more professional driver was found. In his eyes, that's the real tragedy. A series of small, preventable mistakes that ended up costing Diana and Dodi their lives. While official inquiries often highlight specific flaws, speeding, alcohol, paparazzi aggression, the bodyguard says he saw it as an overall breakdown. Everyone was a little too confident that they could handle the situation, from evading paparazzi to controlling the route through Paris. Nobody wanted to slow down and rethink the plan. The Mercedes in the underpass. The collision in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel has become one of the most infamous traffic accidents in modern history. The bodyguard wasn't inside that Mercedes himself, but from the evidence and testimony he's gathered, including what one survivor recounts, he has painted a harrowing picture. He describes how Henri Paul raced away from the Ritz, with Trevor Rees-Jones in the front passenger seat and Diana and Dodi in the back. Chased by a swarm of paparazzi on motorcycles, they sped through city streets in hopes of buying some privacy, even if it was just for the few minutes it took to get to Dodi's apartment. The underpass was dimly lit, and often a spot where local drivers didn't expect to be going at high speed. Witnesses posted near the entrance to the tunnel said the Mercedes seemed to be traveling faster than normal. People recall the squeal of tires, the rush of engine noise, and then an awful crunch as the car collided with the concrete pillar. According to official inquests, Dodi and Henri Paul died on impact. Trevor Rees-Jones, who wore a seatbelt, was severely injured in the crash, sustaining massive facial damage that required extensive reconstructive surgery. Diana was found alive but in dire condition. Immediately after the crash, paparazzi continued to arrive. While some tried to help, others were busy snapping photos. It was one of those moments that would later be used as evidence of how twisted paparazzi culture had become. Instead of calling emergency responders, they were eager to get the perfect shot. The bodyguard suggests that the frenzy around the car might have even worsened the chaos, preventing calm, orderly rescue efforts. The bodyguard says that what still haunts him is the sound of conflicting information in the aftermath. Some bodyguards claimed to have heard crying from inside the car, while others were unsure if Diana was still conscious. A few minutes felt like hours. By the time paramedics and firefighters arrived, they had a giant obstacle course of onlookers and cameras to get through. The bodyguard points to the first responder's story, often identified as a firefighter named Galen, or Gourmelon, who found Diana still breathing inside the wreck. That, to him, underscores how close they were to saving her. She was far from unresponsive at the scene. She still had a fighting chance. But the interior of the Mercedes was crushed. The front end was unrecognizable, seats pushed forward, glass shattered across the floor. The bodyguard notes that at first glance, many people at the scene didn't realize it was Princess Diana at all. Some recognized Dodi, or they pieced it together when they saw the paparazzi going wild. For the bodyguard, it's one of the darkest ironies. She wanted to avoid the press that evening, and yet here she was, surrounded by camera flashes and strangers in her most vulnerable state. Her last words and final moments over the years. Countless rumors have circulated about Diana's last words. Some say she spoke of her sons, William and Harry. Others claim she said nothing. Then, a firefighter's testimony emerged 2 decades later, saying Diana mumbled something like, "My God, what's happened?" Or, "Oh my God, leave me alone." The bodyguard, who has now stepped forward, supports the idea that she was indeed conscious, if only for a short time, and was confused by the chaos around her. He explains that first responders rushed to give Diana oxygen and stabilize her neck. At that moment, the adrenaline must have kicked in,